healing. If you've been raised by a parent with narcissistic traits, you've likely gathered a steamer trunk worth of baggage you've been dragging around with you through life. For those that identify primarily as the scapegoat, your trunks likely hold deep wells of inadequacy, much confusion over the constantly conditional nature of any love you might have felt, and a brutal internal critic that berates you anytime you make a mistake. Recovery is possible. If you haven't watched Adult Child of a Narcissistic Parent Parts 1 and 2 and Golden Child of a Narcissistic Parent Strategies for Healing, it's a good idea to start there or at least watch those ones next. They will give you the 9 traits of narcissism and many insights about how these play out in early childhood experiences as well as the lifelong struggles that typically result. This video will highlight the strategies for healing for the scapegoat specifically. Remember, in a dysfunctional family, the roles can shift and change for lots of reasons, so you may relate to one role in one part of your life and a different role at another time. Of course, it's always best to have your own therapist to walk through this with you, but in addition, these strategies might be helpful. As we've discussed, the narcissist is poorly equipped to be a parent. They just don't have the internal structures to be empathic, caring, selfless, giving, and attending to the child for the child's well-being. They pay attention when it serves them, when the child is supplying their emotional needs, to look like a good parent, or when it suits them for whatever other reason. Whereas the golden child sets out to get attention by doing what the narcissist wants, the scapegoat early on subconsciously decides that they will never get what they want or need from the narcissistic parent. They defend themselves from that loss and pain with a set of strategies that communicate that they don't want or need anything from the narcissist, that they think the narcissist is fake and a fraud, and they want nothing to do with them or their fake life. What this looks like on the outside is that they will be difficult children, rebellious, opinionated, and challenging. And while many see this as that problem child, I've often seen them as the truth teller in the family. And when you give them space to tell what's going on, they can release it and begin to live their lives in the positive rather than in the continual opposition. But let's dive deeper into what's really happening on the inside. In essence, this child is developmentally unable to make sense of these confusing experiences without making it somehow about themselves. The child creates and internalizes their own interpretations of these mixed messages and comes up with some variation of the following. I'm not important, loved, or lovable unless I'm adoring my narcissistic parent, unless I'm bringing achievements or accomplishments to glorify that parent, unless I'm looking particularly adorable for that parent to boast about, unless I'm perfect, and unless I do everything to make everyone happy all the time. The scapegoat adds on to this the crucial belief, I don't believe I can do any of the above with any degree of success, and so the heck with it all. I'm not going to participate in this messed up family or these messed up rules. I'm going to get really good at being really bad. I'm going to disengage completely, find the opposite of all this family believes in, and give them a big F you by doing the exact opposite of what they want me to do. The most crucial realization I want to impart is that all of these above statements are stories the child tells themselves to make sense of the nonsense of a dysfunctional family. The child wisely develops and uses these stories to help them survive when they're little and dependent on that parent. But these stories are highly destructive to carry into adulthood. For the scapegoat, these are the setups to feeling disconnected from yourself and others, to discarding your gifts, your passions, your dreams, potential, to accepting harmful relationships, poor self-care, self-destructive behavior, self-harmful behavior, addictions of all sorts, and emotional misery, including depression, anxiety, and suicidality. These stories are not innate. No baby believes this unless they grow up in chaos, abuse, neglect, and confusion. Children are naturally messy, self-centered, they make mistakes. They're not inherently wired to do the things the narcissistic parent wants from them. A child naturally starts to develop opinions, likes, and dislikes, and starts to become a separate person from the parents during what we know as the terrible twos. For a healthy parent, this is amusing and endearing as your child begins to find themselves. But for the narcissist, this is wholly unacceptable. As a narcissist expresses anger and rejection of the child when they express themselves, the child becomes discouraged, frustrating, and eventually, in order to survive emotionally, they push away from that parent and go in as opposite a direction as they can find. If the parent is super high functioning, the child seeks to be super low functioning. They have tons of potential, but they don't make any effort in school. If the parent is conservative, they become extreme liberals. If they're liberal, the child becomes a conservative. The scapegoat will often throw out all the rules and standards of the family and be very in-your-face and brazen about it. Since the narcissist wants them to glorify and adore them, the child or adult child will embarrass them whenever they get a chance. Externally, they may look like they're relishing in this rebellion, but remember, this is coming from the same place of pain as the golden child. They just internalize different stories that drive their unique manifestations. Some scapegoat children grow up to express themselves in simply unique ways, and they can still function highly in the world. They are the artists or professional rock climbers or therapists when their narcissistic parent wanted them to be professionals. Or they become a lawyer when their parent wanted them to be in the arts, theater, or media. So while they continue to really irritate that narcissistic parent, they're not standing out as in opposition to basic morals and standards. While others will become serious law-breaking, gang-affiliated, drug dealing, and otherwise completely non-functional members of society. The unique scapegoats can have rich and interesting lives, very successful in their own fields, and they seem to be very happy. But often they will carry a sense that they've been a disappointment to their narcissistic parent. They may suffer depression, anxiety, and relationship struggles, and not realize that this is the baggage they're carrying from childhood. When they can step back and look at the truth of their old stories, they can embrace their gifts and talents and what they've created. They can stop renting free space in their heads to that narcissistic internal critic. Their journey to wellness is an internal struggle to really love and accept themselves. Emotions that they need to find from within that they've never felt from the narcissistic parent. They have to reject the narcissistic parent's judgments and embrace how they really feel about their lives. Often looking at their true friendships and relationships, as well as the impact of their chosen passions, can help them let go of the internalized self-doubt and self-judgment. When they get this realization, they often feel better very quickly and move into their lives with new passion and a new freedom. But those who rebel to such an extreme they create really self-destructive or completely non-functioning patterns, or even quite frightening lives, will have a harder road to recovery. The lawyer's kid who's now a gang leader, the doctor's kid who's a drug dealer, the business owner's kid who becomes a homeless addict, or the kid who lives on their parents' or friends' couches and does nothing but play video games all day. These have done some serious damage to their lives, and that'll take some real work to regain control and inner self-care. In addition, when the self-destructive scapegoat takes on the entitlement attitudes of the NPD parent, they will really struggle. Typically, they will not seek help and will only want help on their own terms. They'll bounce in and out of treatment, and as soon as someone asks them to do something they don't want to do, they'll be out. They'll often get lost in chronic self-destruction. So what are the steps to healing? Number 1, stop and take stock. What stories are still dogging you, and how are they playing out in your life? Are you so down on yourself internally that you can't get anything going in your life? Do you so intensely believe you're not capable that you don't even try? Do you feel you have to do something so perfectly that you'd rather not get off the couch than risk imperfection? Do you feel that who you are was never valued, so you never gave it the effort to do what you always wanted to do? Do you beat yourself so mercilessly when you make a mistake that you'd rather live numbed out than try to make a life of meaning and purpose? Do you start to get it together and then quit and decide someone else should do it for you? Number 2, when you find these stories, find the truths and begin to coach yourself on these truths throughout every day. This takes learning to listen to how you talk to yourself internally. We give ourselves 40,000 messages a day inside our own heads. Practice being kind, helpful, and encouraging. We refer to this as reparenting yourself, which means that you talk to yourself in the way you would want from a parent, or how you talk to your best friend. You essentially re-raise that broken-hearted little person inside to realize that mistakes and messes are the stuff of life and they make us laugh and bond, and we can learn and grow from them instead of feeling destroyed by our self-judgment. Here are some other truths to combat your old stories. Every child is lovable and should not be made to feel that they have to take care of the needs of the parent. Every child has their strengths and gifts, and exploring and developing these takes time, encouragement, and lots of trial and error. A child who is shamed for their appearance or weight or clothing choices is one who will be tortured with self-consciousness throughout their lives. The truth is, your looks and style are who you are, and you can embrace and celebrate you in all your uniqueness. We're all very, very messy humans, and our imperfections are funny and help us to stay humble and right-sized. No child should be made to feel like a burden. Your parents' attitudes towards parenting do not define you. You are a precious child like all other precious children, and you are a unique and interesting adult with a purpose for being here. A child who's not given the space to develop a sense of self feels shameful and frustrated. Embrace the uniqueness of you. And finally, there are many people in the world who will love you. When you know who you are and care about yourself, you will draw others who care about you, and you'll push away from those who don't. Number 3, begin to make decisions based on what you wish your parents had said to guide you during the most crucial turning points in your life. Realize you can shift directions, end a relationship, start something new, go to school or learn a trade, stop drinking or using, pick up a new activity, put your feet on a healthier path and keep them there with encouragement, support, and a kind boundary with yourself to keep at it. Number 4, identify all your numbing, escape, and self-destructive activities. These include all of the avoidance and vegging out things like TV, movies, video games, surfing the web, and all social media. It could also be oversleeping, drug and alcohol abuse, mindless eating, binging, and gambling. We all have our own versions of escape and avoidance, so be honest with yourself about what yours are and be ready to call yourself out on it when you see it happening. Or even better, be proactive to not fall into it in the first place. 5, if you have an addiction, be willing to get real help depending on the severity. From AA and NA or other 12-step groups to intensive outpatient or an inpatient short-term or long-term rehab, do whatever it takes to get the level of help you need to make your life livable. And 6, create new self-care strategies that feed, nourish, and nurture you. This can be as simple as time alone in your backyard, prayer, meditation of any kind, music, quiet time, journaling, exercise, physical activities such as walking, hiking, biking, kayaking, bird watching. There are so many possibilities. I'm simply listing to get your mind working. You need to find your own. Avoid all screens, as it is proven by science to not rest our minds or rejuvenate our bodies. So find those relaxing and rejuvenating things for yourself, and then commit to doing these in the first thing in the morning and last thing in the evening, and throughout your day whenever possible. In summary, you can feel better by sorting out the lies, putting in their place some self-honoring, self-nurturing truths, and reinforcing those truths through positive, healthy, and life-enriching actions. If you've appreciated this video, please like and subscribe, and share it on your social media. Take good care of yourselves, and I'll talk to you again real soon.